Hello everyone, it's time for May TBR tackle. This month I have the most books that I had. I have 6 books that I can choose from. There is a big variety of books, definitely. Last month was very romantasy and fantasy heavy. This month there is still some fantasy and romantasy, but it's a lot more diverse and I like it a lot more. This month I decided that I'm going to be reading books that have 5 or more words in the title, and I found a lot of them, so let's just get through all of them. The first one that I have is a classic. It's The Picture of Dorian Gray. It was like 4 or 5 even years ago I did read this book and I almost got to the end, but then I DNF'd it for some reason. I don't remember why. I always wanted to continue it, and I think now is a good time because I really am in the mood to read a classic. Then I have a book that I also started reading at some point, and that is Build Your House Around My Body. This one I feel is a literary fiction thriller mystery. I got this for my birthday, I believe 2 or 3 years ago. Then the third one I have The Spear Cuts Through Water, which is a book that I bought because I heard a lot of people that I trust with book recommendations on booktube recommending this book, and I heard a lot of good things about it. Honestly, currently I don't even remember what it is about. The next book is horror fantasy, and that is House of Roots and Ruin, which is the second, and I don't know how the series is called, but the first one is House of Salt and Sorrow. This is the second book that I didn't even know existed, but I really like the first one. It's one of my favorite YA fantasy books, and I kind of really wanted to read the second one, so this is a good time to read it. The next book that I have is a horror book, which I did not read horror book in a while. It's so weird. I really have not read a horror book in quite a while, and that is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampire by Grady Hendrix. Now, this could go either way because one of Grady Hendrix's books I loved, the other one I really did not. So I don't know what to expect of this one, but it's been on my TBR for a very long time. I did bought it last year, and since then I just want to read it so bad, and it's never time for it, so I'm gonna make time for it to read it now. And the last book that I have is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is from his, what is it called, Secret Project collection. There are 4 books in that collection, and I read 2 of them. Both of them I thought were, one of them I didn't really like, the other one I thought it was okay. This one I hope I will love because a lot of people said that this is like one of their most loved book by Brandon Sanderson, so I really want to read it because the last few books that I read by him, as I said, I wasn't very, I don't know, it was just, they were just okay. Kind of expecting a lot of this book, which I don't know if it's a good thing or bad, but we'll see. Those are the 6 books that I have for this month's TBR. I will probably start with Grady Hendrix because I have not read horror in a long time and I really want to read this book and see if I'm going to love it or hate it. I think it's a good palate cleanser. I think it was a good book to start with because I just finished reading a lot of fantasy and a lot of sci-fi and literary fiction, and I kind of want to just go into horror for a bit. I'm kind of missing it a bit in my life. So yeah, that's the one that I am definitely going to start with. And the other 2 books that I really want to get to, The Picture of Dorian Gray or Build Your House Around My Body. All the others, if I get to, amazing. If I don't, it's okay. But yeah, we'll start with these 3. And that's it for now. I'm going to let you guys know when I have a little bit more to say about anything. So yeah, okay. Hello everyone, it's been a week again, me not updating you guys, but it's okay. I'm sorry, I was a bit sick and I was reading some other books and I just wanted to finish some other books before I jump into this one, and then I started reading this one and I am now, like, I think I have like 150 pages left till the end, so it's pretty fast read, yeah. This is a third Grady Hendrix book that I read, and I I am enjoying it. I was a bit hesitant because the last one, We Sold Our Souls, I really did not like at all. But I loved My Best Friend's Exorcism, so Grady Hendrix is a hit or a miss for me, I guess. This book for now is definitely a hit. I really like this book. I really like the plot. It reminds me a lot more of My Best Friend's Exorcism and the parts that I liked in that book, and I enjoyed it very much. The horror part of this book, like the vampire part, I don't find scary at all. But what I find scary is the amount of gaslighting that this woman goes through, these women go through. It's, oh my god, that's scary to me. Our main character is this woman in her 40s. They're all from South, and she's in this book club. They read like these horror books, very gory horror books, and then they talk about them. Then one day, this man shows up in their neighborhood. Something bad happens with his aunt. Everything kind of goes crazy when he comes. This woman sees something, and she kind of connects it to this man. And and then she tries to do something about it. But all this book is in 80s. And these women are housewives. So imagine how well that goes. Her trying to do something. Not very well, let me tell you. No, the amount of gaslighting this woman goes through is, oh my god. So I just finished a chapter that finished with her asking herself and telling herself, I didn't really see that. They gaslit her so much that she doesn't even believe her own senses. That is, I don't even know what to say to that. I think that, to me, I would just go crazy if that happened to me. Imagine seeing something and then everybody telling you, that's not what you saw. Nope, you were just tired. You were just tired, and you've been through a lot, and that happens, but you didn't see that. I think I would just go crazy, completely crazy, and I don't blame this woman that kind of went crazy because of the gaslighting. All the Grady Hendrix books that I've read so far all had main female characters. All books had that part in which our main character sees something, discovers something, and then nobody trusts them. And they cannot turn to anyone. They're very lonely. They are powerless. And in this one, it's the most prevalent, I feel like. It's the best done. Honestly, I think this is one of the scariest horror books I've ever read just because of this. And I read The Har, which was just so gory, but it didn't scare me. It was just gory and it was hard to read. Definitely. Slimer as well. It wasn't that scary. It was just hard to read because the gore, because some other things. This one is genuinely scary to me because it feels like something that, it probably happens to people, that people just gaslight them. And imagine being in a position where you are a mother, you have kids that you have to take care of, you are not working, you're a housewife, and you have a husband that provides everything for you, and then you're doing something that your husband does not approve of. He can take everything away from you, and that's what is so scary, because all of these housewives that are trying to do something, their husbands are not, they don't want them to do these things. They are all scared of that. They're all scared of everything just going away. They don't want to anger their husbands, and in a way, their husbands just puppet them. They can do whatever they want to them. They beat them. They don't treat them well always. Not all husbands, but some of them, and it's just scary and sad. And it's even more scarier because this mentality is based on a real mentality that is still there in the world, like that traditional housewife, working man mentality. It's, very hard to read for somebody to be that powerless, for a woman to not be able to do anything about it, really, to just stand there and watch everything unfold, and you cannot do anything about it because they don't let you. They always need to ask their husband permission for everything, and being dependent at all on somebody in that capacity is scary. If you don't need to, you just should not. And then being dependent on somebody who is very aware of their power over you, what they can do to you, that's even scarier. And I'm just, whenever I watch those like old movies where they have very prominent husband role and housewife role, and you see their dynamic and it's not good. Like, I watched that show, How Women Kill. I watched first season, and then part of the show was in 20s, or no, it was in 50s, with like a housewife and her husband, and how she's trying to see if he, like, she finds out that he's cheating on her, and she's trying to do something about it. And that was also scary because, I mean, he had so much power over her, like I said. And everything, like the way he manipulated her and gaslit her, it kind of reminds me, this book reminds me of that. And also, in a weird way, this book kind of reminds me of Edward Scissorhand. In Edward Scissorhand, though, housewives were the main, they were like the main people who did everything. Husbands were just there. This man that just came into this community from nobody knows where, and they all love him at the beginning, and then as time goes on they stop loving him and they start kind of hating him and they want to get him out. But if Edward was evil, so this is like if Edward was evil, what would happen if guys were the ones who could decide of those things. I do enjoy this book. I don't think I'm going to update you before I finish it, definitely, because there are like 150 pages more. So I'm probably going to be updating you when I finish it, but I hope that I will finish it in the next 2 days. I hope I like the ending. To be honest, I thought that the first part of the book is going to be like them finding out, and then the whole other part of the book was them fighting against him. And it is kind of like that, but the fighting part is not still very active. It's still more of just a talk between these women, and nothing big happened. I don't know if it will, or it's going to be like a quiet fight. Yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts for now. Hello. So it's been a week since my last update. Has it been a week? I actually, you know what? I don't know how long it's been, but I did read The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. I feel very good with that rating. I feel like that's the best rating I could give this book, and I like this book a lot. I think it's a very good to start reading vlog, although my last reading vlog, I started with a good book and then the rest of them were like kind of meh. My final thoughts on this book. I already talked about what was the most traumatic thing for me in this book, what I feel like is the thing that made this book horror book for me, and I feel like it's still my opinion. The ending of this book I thought could go either way. I thought it could go in a way that I would love it, and it could go in a way that I would hate it. It did go on a path that I did not mind. I think the ending was well executed. It made sense. It was empowering, I would say. The ending was pretty empowering. Just these women finally getting their grip and telling their man, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do, what's right, and they just kind of stick together and do everything alone, and I feel like that was amazing ending. I really appreciated that. In the end, the men were just left being stupid, and the woman just took care of everything. I feel like that was pretty realistic end, to be honest. So one thing I would also want to say about this book is some scenes that I feel were a bit unnecessary. They were kind of there for shock value. Scenes with, if you read this book you know what I mean, but I'm not going to spoil it. There were like some scenes with animals. They were just vile and awful to read. I had physical reaction during those scenes. It was just like, I kind of felt like I'm going to throw up just because how vile and gruesome it was. They weren't as bad as some other horror books that I read that were just like shocking completely, nothing else but just like shock. So this one kind of just peppered a little bit of it, and I could forgive the book for that. I don't think that's that bad. Yeah, I don't know what else to talk about. It was a good book. I would recommend it. I feel like this is definitely a hit. Grady Hendrix's book, which I thought from the beginning it was going to be, because in the beginning it says that this book is kind of like My Best Friend's Exorcism, but from the perspective of the adults. I started reading Build Your House Around My Body, and I am currently like in the page 48, so not very far away. I still don't know what genre this book is. I'm very confused because on Goodreads I saw that it was under horror thriller category. It reads like a literary fiction, but there's like this mystery part. I still don't know what the horror part is going to be. For now, we're just following our main character. She does not know what to do with her life. Oh, there was like a horror scene, something, that happened 18 years ago. It's still very mysterious, so I don't have a lot of thoughts about it. I feel like I have to get a lot more into it to give you guys some coherent thoughts, but for now that's it. Hi, hello. It's been a week since my last update, and I have to be honest with you. I got into a reading slump this month. I have read so many books this year. I just had to take a break, I think. So it's almost the end of the month. It's 20th of May. And I have read only 3 books, which is completely fine. And I'm completely okay with reading only 3 books. Well, I would be if I weren't to film this video, for which I only read 1 book and nothing else. And I do have to at least read 2 more, I feel like, for this monthly reading to have any sense. So I don't know what to do, because I'm in a reading slump and I'm really trying to read, but when I pick a book up and I'm start reading it, my mind just goes somewhere. Like, my free time for this month was spent on watching Grey's Anatomy. It's my guilty pleasure, and I'm just watching all the episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and I'm not reading, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I do want to read. It's not like I do not want to read, but also when I start reading, I'm just like, but I could be watching Grey's Anatomy, and I read so many books. In the last week, I started, like I talked about, I started Build Your House Around My Body, and I decided to DNF this book. I'm not going to get rid of this book because I do feel like this is a book that I will love. But it's just not time for me to read it now. I'm not interested enough to read it while I'm going through reading slump. Definitely, I feel like I have to be in a good enough mindset. I also did not know what the genre of this book was. As it seems, it is a horror book, and I just read another horror book, so I kind of just want to take a break for horror, at least read a couple of books in the middle of that. So I decided to DNF it in like 100-page mark. I feel like that's a good chunk to go through before deciding to DNF a book, and I'm going to try to read it some other time, but I'm not going to get rid of it. When I decided to DNF that one, I started reading Dorian Gray, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I feel like, well, not very far. I'm at chapter 5, page 60. This is the second time of me trying to read Dorian Gray. Well, the first time I almost read it, but I have not finished it, and I'm glad that I have not, because I don't really remember anything. But I have a bit of a problem with this book that I had the first time, and it's not that I do not enjoy the book. I do like it very much. But I feel like this book has a problem of wanting to have very deep conversations, and every single thing that a character says needs to be very deep and profound. So like the main problem of this book for me is Lord Henry, who just talks like he's the smartest man on the earth, and he understands every single thing, and he understands everybody, and he just wants to share with you everything that he knows. because he knows so many good things and he just understands it and you do not. Every dialogue turns into monologue of Lord Henry. I remember when I first read it, by the end, it just became a bit too repetitive for me to have every single conversation turn into his teaching moment about something, he teaches somebody about something, about life. Okay, so because I am, like I said, very behind on my reading for this vlog, I also started reading simultaneously The Spirit Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I'm very early on in this book. I'm like at page 30. It's a very thick book. It's a chunky book. But I feel like I went through first 3 pages in 10 minutes. It was so fast. And the writing style is something that I love very, very much. And I talked about how much I love it. And that is the writing is in second person. And I love writing in second person. I know that some people have problems with it because it is quite weird to read something in second person, but I just love it a lot. And for some reason, it reminds me of Sinners, because last week I watched Sinners. I don't think it's that good of a film. Maybe that's controversial, but I feel like I did not like it as much as people. I heard like a lot of good things about that movie and I watched it. It was an okay movie. I liked the music a lot. I think the music is great. The editing of the movie was awful. The fading between scenes was awful. The script, I feel like, was really not that good. Costumes, and I feel like they could do a lot more with them. I really loved the concept of the movie. I really loved what it was trying to do, but I just don't think it was done that well as people are saying it was. I just feel like there were like a lot of very unnecessary parts, very unnecessary character mentions. Like it is mentioned that this character has a husband, and then it just doesn't really matter. Then it is mentioned about how her mother raised these 2 main characters. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really come up at any point later. The whole vampire thing isn't explained well. I talked to my friends after that and we all kind of agreed that there were like a lot of plot holes, and how I'm not going to be spoiling. Well, I cannot say it because it's a spoiler, but it's just the first part of the movie was so long, in which they are like making this bar. A lot of things happen in the second part, and the first part was so long, unnecessarily long, it was kind of just exposition. The whole first part is them telling us who they know, what happened, and just going around and telling their life story, I guess. And I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. I feel like when it just finished, I was kind of still under the influence of the music, because I did enjoy music. The soundscore of the movie is really original, and I can see it winning Oscar for music. When it finished, I was still under influence of it. Then I just kind of thought about it, and I understood that I didn't really like it. Those are my thoughts on Sinners. And it reminded me of this book, because this book is also kind of remembering of something that happened. There are no vampires in this book. I think there are no vampires in this book, but for now, like a lot of sounds are mentioned in this book and movements, so that kind of reminded me of the main premise of the movie, which was like music can conquer something, which in the end didn't even happen. But anyway, yeah, so that happens when you're in reading slump. You don't have anything to talk about the books, but I do hope that I will be able to read both of these books. At least I don't see me going anywhere near the other 2 that I have. Yeah, it just happens sometimes, you're in reading slump, that's okay. It happens to everybody. I feel like it's completely normal, especially when you read a ton of books at like a very short period of time. Your brain just needs to relax a little bit. It happens to me with everything. If I'm like playing a video game for a very long time and then I don't want to see it for the next 3 months. I hope I will be updating you at the end of the week so I hope that I will be able to say something about at least one of these books. So yeah, that's it. Hello. So it's been a couple of days, but it's still the same week. And I read The Picture of Dorian Gray finally. This week I actually read 2 books, which is a lot more. It's almost the same number as I read the whole month of May, but yeah, it happens, sometimes you're in reading slump. But I did read The Picture of Dorian Gray and I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I mean, I knew that I would enjoy this book. Everybody loves this book. The thing that I said in my last clip about every dialogue needing to be some kind of in-depth conversation, I still think that way. I still think that is like a big part of this book, that everything needs to be very profound, especially what Lord Henry says. And that's like kind of funny to me because I do not agree with things that he says, especially his views on women and what women should do and how women think. I definitely do not agree with those, so it's very funny to have the character that you do not agree with be a character that should be like this profound character. But also what I do like is that he's not made as some kind of pillar of morality, he isn't moral character. It's very obvious that he isn't moral character. I mean, he's kind of the character, he's kind of responsible for Dorian Gray's demise and what Dorian Gray does, and his becoming so immoral because he's friends with Lord Henry and because of this book that Lord Henry gave him. And it's just a very interesting dynamic between those two, and then between Dorian Gray and Basil, the artist. And some questions that were kind of in my head through the whole reading of this book. One of them was, does art represent the artist or the subject of the art? Because in this book we have artist Basil, drawing portrait of Dorian Gray, and he puts his soul in this portrait, but then in the end this portrait has soul of Dorian Gray and is, changing as his soul changes, not as Basil's soul changes. When you go into museum and you look at art, you are not really always thinking about the subject, I feel like especially if you're looking at some kind of landscape artist or abstract artist, you're not looking at the things that are actually put on canvas. You're trying to think through the eyes of the artist. How did he see that? What does that represent for him? When you are researching art, any kind of art, I feel like you always have to research the artist and the age that it was made, because that really tells you a lot about the art and the way you will perceive it. So it's very interesting to have this book in which the art isn't something that represents the artist himself. Or maybe even if you're looking at it in a different way, maybe Basil put his soul, but his soul contained a part of Dorian Gray's soul because he was so connected with him, and it's the way he sees him. The way he sees him is very interchangeable with his behavior. He saw through him, so he could put it that way. But anyway, I like this book because I feel like you can interpret and you can read it in so many different ways. You can read it thinking about each sentence, each profound sentence so much, or you can read it as just a horror book. It's a book that I feel stands the test of time, definitely. A lot of things that are mentioned in it still can stick with you, even though it was written... When was it written? Late 19th century. The other thing that was really interesting for me in this book is the way that morality is put to the test, because we have Dorian, who lives very immoral life, and we are not told exactly what he does. And that's the other thing that I loved, because I feel like mystery in this book really, it stayed mystery. We do not know what he did. We just know that he does a lot of wrong things to a lot of different people, and that people's lives are ruined because of him. We do not really know what he does. And I kind of like that, because I remember when I was watching the movie from early 2000s. Like, the movie is not very good, but in the movie it's shown how immoral he is, you know. In the movie it's shown a lot more, and in the book it just told that he doesn't do great things. And I think sometimes it's better to leave some things to mystery, especially these kind of things, because as a reader I could picture so many different awful things that he could have done, and I do not know if any of those are true. But if the author told me, I feel like I would kind of even be maybe a little bit disappointed, because it wouldn't be as bad as I thought it was. Or maybe it was even worse. But like this, I will never know, and I can just think what for me is so immoral that he did. And I really like that. The book kind of shows you then what you believe for yourself are immoral things, because it doesn't say to you what immoral things he does. You can just put whatever you think that is immoral, that you think he could have done. He does everything without any consequences, and maybe would it mean if that is something that would happen in real life? Would people really be moral? If there are no consequences that anybody really sees. In the book, consequences are shown through his beauty. There are no financial consequences. I mean, he's losing people, but the people, you know, we are told are not very important to him. Obviously, there are like Lord Henry, that is his important friend, but and then in the moment that real consequences comes to him, that something happens because of the things he has done, that's the point in which he is like, okay, you know what, I'm going to start being good. I'm going to start being nice. That's very interesting, because I do feel, sadly, that if that is true for real world, that a lot of people would just do a lot more awful deeds. I feel like this book really leaves you with a lot of things to ponder upon, and like, you know, a lot of things you can think about very much. But you also, as I said, can read this book as just a horror book and just read it for the horror elements in it. It's a very good book, and I've seen a lot of people recommend this book for people that want to get into classics. Like, one of the first classics that you should read is Dorian Gray. I completely agree with that. That's it of this update. I'll talk to you when I have something to say about Spear Cuts Through Water. It's been a couple of days again, and I wanted to do an update on Spear Cuts Through Water. So I'm on page 198. That is just the beginning of the second day. So this book is divided. The first part of the book is just giving us what is happening. I don't think it has a name before. It has a name before. And then we are going through 5 days, I believe. I'm currently on a second day, so the way it's written, it's very interesting because it's written in the second person. Part of it is written in the second person, part of it is written in the first person, part of it is written in the third person. And the way it is all connected is, so we are someone, in the beginning it's you, and we are watching this performance, and it reminds us of a story that our grandma told us about what was before, the empire before. And then we are told this story, and we are shifting from this story to remembering our grandma, and then to this performance and how something in this performance reminds us of something else. The main story is the story of this empire and what happened, what our Lola is telling us. It's a bit hard to follow if you aren't really focused on it, because it is jumping. I don't know why I said it reminded me of Sinners. I really don't remember. Maybe just because I just watched The Sinners, probably because of that, because it doesn't have vampires. It doesn't have anything. Maybe only like the part in the movie, if you watch the movie where they are kind of going through this plantation. I think they're going by car though. I don't think they're going by wagon. Maybe that's because this is very road trip. And I don't usually like road trip books, but it does remind me of something else. It really, really reminds me a lot of Fifth Season. Fifth Season, the beginning of the book, why our main character is going on this road trip is because something happened. Something that greatly impacted everyone. It like something that everybody could feel, and now she's going and she's trying to find her daughter as well, but everything is kind of falling apart because the 5th season started. And in this book, we have kind of the same beginning. Something really big happened and everybody felt it. It's something that kind of changes the whole empire. Our character that we are following and these other characters are all going on this road trip, and we are just, going with them, and they are being chased and they're trying to escape, and our main character is trying to get this spear to this woman that he needs to get this spear to because his commander told him so. When I went into this book, I really did not know what it was about. I didn't really want to know. I just heard a lot of good things, a lot of great things about this book, and for now I really am liking it a lot. The writing style is also very lyrical. It's so lyrical. You kind of get lost in the prose, it really reminds me a lot of The Deep, for example. The Deep is also, it's a lot shorter, but it's also traveling with this character. And here we are traveling with our characters. And also, the other thing I wanted to say, the part that is written in first person. So every now and then, we get a POV of somebody that is currently on the page. We are constantly getting these POVs of so many different people, and I really like it. I think it's so original. I think it's such a clever way. Usually if you have kind of some character that is really not important on a page, you don't really feel connected with them at all, and this way I feel a bit of connection with every character because I'm kind of seeing what their POV is and what they're feeling. Kind of makes you feel empathetic towards them. I am still not sure this book, who is the bad guy in this book. It's still very mysterious. We still do not know what is actually happening. We just kind of are seeing them trying to escape, and anyway, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm just going to continue reading now, and if I have any more thoughts, I'm going to let you know. I have a problem. I have to put out this video this week, which means that I have to edit it today, and I still have not finished Spear Cuts Through Water. I have about 100 pages left, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to finish this video right here. I'm going to tell you my final thoughts of all the books and my final thoughts on the Spear Cuts Through Water so far, and then whatever video I'm going to be putting out next week, at the end of that video I'm going to be dedicating 2 to 3 minutes to my final thoughts of Spear Cuts Through Water, because I do have to put out this video, and I'm sorry. I didn't think I'm going to be needing that much time to read this. As you can see, I don't have that much left. I have about 100 pages left, 135 I think. I didn't think I will need that much time to finish it, just because it is very interesting book to me, but also it is kind of hard to follow. You have to be very focused, I feel like, to read through this book, because there's so many different writing styles implemented in. Not writing styles, but so many different perspectives and POVs, and they're very short, and you kind of get easily lost in what is actually what are you currently following and what is what. But also it's so interesting, and it still reminds me a lot of Broken Earth, and it also reminds me of Black Sun, and I was thinking how it reminded me of those two, and then I read at the back that it literally says here for fans of diverse nuanced epic like Black Sun and the Broken Earth series. So it makes sense that it reminds me of that, and I really love 5th season. I really like that book, and the series in whole I did enjoy, and I really do like Black Sun a lot, and the second book I don't want to talk about, but the first one I do like, and I'm still waiting to read a third one. So I feel like this book is so slept upon. It's so underhyped. I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it. The people that I hear talking about it are really hyping it and really saying that it's amazing book, which I completely agree with. It is definitely a very, very good book, and I'm really sad that not that many people know about this book or read this book, as I feel should, because it's a fantasy, and not only is it a fantasy, it is a standalone fantasy. You just have one book, you don't have to dedicate your next 3 years to series to complete the series. You have this 500 something page book, and then you're done. You have full story, and the story is so beautiful, and it's so lyrical, and it's written, like I said, in these different types of ways, and you are following a story within a story. You're following these characters that are very complex characters, and there is not a point in this book that I feel like somebody is just telling me the story, which is weird to say because it's a book, but I always feel like this book is so much showing and not telling. Everything that happens, you kind of find out about things through the things that are happening, and it's just, I think it's so well done. It's so beautifully written, and the story itself is this big road trip. Descriptions are so vivid, and you can imagine everything so easily. It just makes me go into this world so completely, and I don't even feel like I'm reading. I feel like I'm watching a movie whilst reading this book. So yeah, those are my thoughts so far on this book. I think I will give this book 4.5 or 4.75. I don't think it's going to go under that rating, although maybe the ending is just terrible and completely awful, but I doubt it. So far it is not. So far it's amazing, so I do hope that it will end in amazing tone as well. Go back to the other 3 books that I talked about through this vlog. So first one, well, not the first one, but I have Dorian Gray, which I also liked. It was a book that it was on my reading list for a very long time. I do think it's one of those classics that everybody should read. If you want to read a classic, read Dorian Gray. I completely agree with that. And I just think it had so many good conversations, so many not very good conversations, but it makes you think, and you can read it in many different ways, and this is a very rereadable book. This is Build Your House Around My Body that I DNF'd. Again, I'm going to say I didn't DNF it because I feel like it's a bad book. I DNF'd it because it's not a book that I, at the moment that I started reading it, just needed. I didn't need this kind of story at the moment. I do feel like at some point I will want to really return to this story because it is a story that I found interesting the way the part that I read, and I did like it, but I just felt like I would like it more if I waited a little bit more, so I can completely take it. It was just not time for this story now. And the first book that I read this month is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Very fun book. I did enjoy it. I really like how Grady Hendrix writes very important topics and issues. I liked the characters, I liked their dynamics and the placement of everything, the time that it took, like 80s. I liked everything. There you have it. I feel like I filmed this vlog for such a long time, and I did check, and I have the most clips that I ever had for one of these vlogs, so I'm getting better in filming my thoughts on the books. Now, only thing is those clips, all the clips are quite long, so I have to shorten them. Yeah, that's it for this vlog. I am going to let you know my final thoughts of Spirit Cut Through Water in my next video, and thank you so much for watching this one. I just now kind of realized that I only read completely 2 books. But you know what? They were amazing. This is still one of my highest rated months. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!